Well, no doubt Australians are shocked by those very serious allegations, but the government has established a process with a special investigator that will assess and investigate these particular allegations. But my view, the Prime Minister's view, the Defence Minister's view, and indeed the CDF's view is that there are so many good people in our Australian Defence Force and they do so much good work. We shouldn't allow these allegations to overshadow that broader performance, which has been outstanding by so many of our men and women in the ADF.
Let me ask you about the income retirement review now. It says that increasing superannuation guarantee will be to the detriment of low-income earners. Is that right?
Well, it talks about the trade-off between wages and compulsory super, and as you know, we have a superannuation guarantee at 9.5%. It's scheduled to go up to 10% by mid-next year and to eventually increase by 12%. And so the money that you don't get in your wages today is put into your retirement for later. The report goes into some detail about the adequacy of retirement and what is a good replacement level for your retirement based on the income that you had in your working life. It is a very comprehensive report, Laura. It's the first report that looks at our entire retirement income review since compulsory super was established in 1992. So it looks at the so-called three pillars: the age pension, compulsory super, and also voluntary savings, including home ownership. And it confirms that the government is on the right track, trying to enable people to maximise the gains through their super with our significant reforms, which are going to help reduce fees, boost transparency and boost accountability by the various super funds, as well as what we're doing with home ownership, which the report points out is absolutely key to people's financial security in retirement.
Well, how do you digest this report then? Will the super guarantee increase of 10% go ahead next year in July as planned?
It is legislated, but the government will make a decision before that time. We're obviously considering this report. The Governor of the Reserve Bank has had some very strong words on this subject, as well as other reputable bodies like the Grattan Institute. So we'll consider these findings, these observations by the report. It's more than 600 pages in length. It was conducted by an independent panel, an expert panel led by Mike Callaghan, a former senior figure at the International Monetary Fund and a former distinguished Treasury official, as well as Professor Ralston, who was the head of the Alliance for a Fairer Retirement, and Caroline Kay, a well-respected business figure who's on the board of the Future Fund. So an expert panel who did an enormous amount of work, and that work is in the report and no doubt will be looked at in great detail by many people in the weeks to come.
So you are going to seek to delay it, if I could just clarify that, because what's the point of having a report like this if you don't take its findings seriously?
Well, we're obviously looking at its observations very closely. It doesn't make specific recommendations, but as for the increase in super, the government has said that we will make a decision on that before its scheduled increase in mid-next year.
Okay, so are we looking at a scenario whereby that scheduled increase to 10% may or may not go ahead? Because as you say, it's legislated, so you'd need to get the Senate on board. But the trajectory to 12%, is that in the medium term, if you like, a bigger concern to you?
Well, again, the report goes into some detail about that trade-off. What people lose in wages today, they get in terms of their compulsory super and their retirement incomes later on. But the report looks at what is an adequate amount of money for people to have in retirement, and it points out that a lot of people don't draw down fully on their super. In fact, they effectively leave a bequest for future generations. The superannuation system was designed to be used in retirement, and that's one of the key observations of this report, as well as, of course, they look at the age pension. They talk about it meeting community standards, that it's increased faster than inflation and also wages over the last decade. There's a lot in this report that will need to be digested over the weeks to come.
Well, it focuses on low-income workers and what that might mean. And in a post-COVID recovery, you have spoken about how low-income earners often contribute to economic stimulus because they spend almost every dollar that they have. But what guarantee is there? Because I think people watching this today would think, well, superannuation is paid by my employer. It's not paid by me. So what guarantee is there that you would see a wages increase for low-income earners if that guarantee was left at the level it's at?
Well, again, that is something that the Reserve Bank Governor and the Grattan Institute and this expert body have looked into at great length, and they make it very clear that it does come out of people's wages, and that is the point. Now, again, these are trade-offs because having a compulsory super system does allow and enable people to save for their retirement. But the question is, at what is the appropriate rate? Now, 9.5% is a very big increase on where it started. It's going to 12%. I noticed the Labor opposition would like it to even go higher. That does come from people's wages. So it's about getting that balance right, particularly at these very difficult economic times.
Shouldn't it come out of business? Business should be paying for superannuation. And if there is going to be a delay in the increase, the guarantee, what will you do to make sure that we see that in wages growth?
Well, you're getting ahead of yourself right now, Laura, because as you and I know, this is a legislated increase that the government will consider and make a decision on before it actually occurs in mid next year. We are in the middle of a once-in-a-century pandemic. Our economy has had a very big hit. The recovery is now underway. We saw 178,000 jobs created last month. We saw the unemployment rate, the effective unemployment rate, come down from 9.3 down to 7.4%. So we know that consumer confidence, that business confidence is tracking in the right direction. But that being said, we are going to have moderate wage growth for some time. And that's an observation both in the budget as well as by the Reserve Bank. And there is a trade-off here between people's wages today and their superannuation incomes that they generate as a result of the superannuation guarantee. So these are important observations which will help inform future decision making.
Yeah, everything changes post-COVID. A lot of things will be turned on their head. Just finally, before I let you go, your Liberal colleagues want to consider making childcare tax deductible. Dave Sharma among them. Also Dominic Perrottet on this program yesterday said it was a good idea. Of course, it doesn't come out of his budget, so I'm sure you'd say he can say that. But is this something now that you will consider on a productivity basis?
Look, we've put more and more money every year into our childcare system, and we've also made significant reforms to that system to enable that those on lower and middle income earners get more of our funding, and that's how it should be, because you actually want to get those people into the workforce if that's a choice that they make. Now, the Labor Party has, in effect, provided more money to higher income earners, far higher income earners than our system actually provides for. Well, again, it's about getting the balance right. And if they want to be providing support to people on incomes of $500,000, then they need to explain why they are doing that. And that is obviously comes off the broader budget bottom line, which means less money that can be provided to other areas. And those are choices that governments make. We have significantly boosted our childcare funding and made significant reforms which are delivering better outcomes, and you see that in the workforce participation rate for women that got to a record high before COVID hit.